Hey folks, a few weeks ago I did a video talking about my process for taking photos of miniatures. And several folks requested that I do a follow-up video talking about how to take pictures just using the camera on your phone. So first of all, a lot of the basic things that I talked about in the previous video apply to taking pictures with your phone. You want good lighting, you want your camera or phone, whatever you're using, to be stable so that you don't end up with a blurry photo, and that you have good lighting so that you're accurately picking up the colors of your mini. So in the last one I talked about using lights, but you can actually have an even more basic lighting setup and just use natural lighting. So what you want to look for is indirect or diffused natural light. The reason you don't want to use direct natural light is that you're going to have really dark shadows. The light parts are going to be really bright and awesome, but the shadows of your mini, where the light isn't directly hitting, is going to be a lot more pronounced than if you're using indirect or diffused light. So what do I mean by indirect light? Well, basically just find a place near a window that is not directly in the sunlight. Or take pictures on a cloudy day, or if you've got like rice paper across the window, that's also a really good place to take pictures because that rice paper is going to diffuse the light. So you're not going to get those extreme shadows. It breaks up the light waves and diffuses it. Cloudy days are actually some of the best days to take pictures on because it's nature's diffusion. Alright, so once you've found that place, again, it's just getting your phone set up where it's pretty stable, that way you aren't shaking as you're trying to take the picture. Now I oftentimes like to actually rest my phone on some kind of surface, or if I'm just holding it, what I'll do is I'll kind of I'm not sure if you can really see, but just lock my elbow in against my body, so that gives you a lot more stable than trying to hold out here. You can kind of probably see a little bit, my hand shakes a little less when it's down here. But if you can find something to set your phone on, that's going to give you the most stable surface. Alright, from there, you can just take the picture. But to make it even a little bit better, use the lock focus feature. I don't know what it is on all sorts of different models of phones, but on iPhones, you just press and hold, and the box will kind of get big and then lock in, and it'll say AF lock. So that locks in on the part that you want to focus on, and then from there you can adjust. There'll oftentimes be a sun symbol next to it, and that's how you adjust the brightness. For these examples, I'm just using a white piece of paper as my background. That's something that most people have around their house. But what the phone is going to do is that it's going to white balance and base the exposure off of the white in the photo. We don't care if the white background gets blown out. We want to accurately represent the miniature, the colors on the miniature. So bump that exposure up. Don't worry about blowing out the white background, but focus on making it so that the colors on the miniature are accurate in the photo as it is in real life. You do want to be careful and not overexpose. You can see in a couple of these examples, I did overexpose, mostly to show what happens when you do that. It just gets blown out and you can really tell. Now, oftentimes I will take a couple of different levels of exposures and then look at it later and figure out which one I like the best. It also depends on what the sun's doing and all sorts of that, how much you're going to have to adjust the exposure. One cool thing that you can do with phones that you can't quite do as much with a big, professional camera is get up close and personal. So keep in mind the direction your phone is. So these first couple of photos I took with the phone in portrait mode, so up and down, and because of that, just where the placement of the lens, it gives a lot more of a top-down view of the mini. But for these next photos, I turned my phone sideways, so I put it in landscape mode. That brought the camera down basically to eye level with the miniature and gave you a much better view of some of the details. So play around with it, and don't be afraid to put your phone like this or like this. I actually because the iPhone that I have, it's down to one side. I'll get kind of action-y shots of miniatures and then the players in the background by setting my phone on the table like this and angling it up. So it's a little hard to see the screen when you're doing this. You kind of have to take a couple pictures, check it, try taking a couple more. Nice thing about digital is if you don't like them, you can just delete them. But it gets a really low angle that you couldn't get that with a camera. So that's a really fun, cool feature of taking pictures with your phone. Now, there are tons and tons of editing apps out there for photos. I have a couple that I've tried out, but usually when I'm taking pictures of miniatures, I don't do much editing after I've taken the photo. I'll crop it down and I'll do a little bit of color adjustment if the lighting was a little off. Like some of the photos that I took, the light was a little bit bluer just because it was bouncing off of our neighbor's blue house. So, doing a little bit of white balance or color adjustment. Oftentimes I'll up the vibrancy just a little because depending on like if it's fluorescent lighting, the colors might get a little washed out. Basically what I'm doing is I'm editing the photo so that the photo accurately represents the miniature in real life. So that when I post it online, I'm getting feedback based on the actual paint job. This is especially important if you want that feedback or if you're posting pictures kind of mid-process asking advice or asking ideas for colors or stuff like that. You want to be able to use the advice that you get and not have somebody say, oh, a red would go really well because they think it's a green or brown, but actually in real life it's like a purpley or brown and that red wouldn't look good, maybe. So just to keep the colors accurate and to keep the mini looking like it does in real life. So there you go, just a couple of quick things that you can do to kind of up your photography skills when it comes to taking pictures of your miniatures. And the nice thing about phones is you can take the picture and post it right away. You don't have to download it and go through all of those other steps. So, out at events or taking process photos, that's what I like using my phone for, because it is so fast versus taking I spent a lot of time on this mini and I want a really cool shot to show it off. I'll take the time to sit down with my big camera and compose it and all of that. And really, if all you have is a phone, you can still take some really awesome pictures with it. Alright, so do you have any additional advice that you'd pass along about taking pictures of your miniatures? Let's talk about it more down in the comments below. Are there any tips that I haven't talked about? Or do you know about Android phones, what the lock feature brightness is? Let me know, because I don't have an Android phone. I just have an iPhone. I want to give a special thanks to all of our patrons, especially Sean, Joan, Arvie, Lainey, and Bryce. If you're interested in helping support the channel, helping us make more videos for you folks, talking about our miniatures and painting and all of that, you can head on over to patreon.com/rollforinitiative and check out the perks. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye!